Insider information in the TCG industry is a topic that's very interesting, man. And I want to have a discussion with you here today. And I want to just ask you a question. Me as Bronson, as a content creator, if I got insider information about Flesh and Blood or any other TCG or anything in the TCG industry, what should I do? It's a good question. Hypothetically, if your boy Bronson got some insider information that you or I could just interact with the secondary market in certain ways to where we could make profitable decisions if this type of information is true or not, allegedly, hypothetically, what should I do? Should I not act on that information? Should I act on that information? Should I tell you, the viewer, should I release that? Well, let's say I did have some information like that, hypothetically, of course, and I told you in this video, right? And people made buying decisions or selling decisions or some type of decisions based on that. And fast forward 6 months, I'm wrong. I got bad information. I was completely incorrect. And you, as the viewer slash consumer slash person, normal person in your normal room, just lost money based on hypothetical insider information that I gave you, that I presented as fact. How would you feel? Would you like me very much then? But then, me, little me Bronson, I can just tell you, oh man, I just told you the public. I didn't have to, but I wanted to because I just wanted to tell you the truth. I wanted to tell you what I heard as truth and as insider information. It had to be public. I didn't want to hide the information that I was given from the public. The public has all the rights to know all these little rumors, little things that I've heard. You know, you have that type of scenario. But what happens if I'm right? Which is probably even worse. Then you have all the people who didn't listen to me in the beginning. You know, they are probably like pissed as hell. They're like, hey, what the fuck? How did this guy get information ahead of everyone else? And, you know, you as a viewer be like, oh, yeah, I got some insider information. I did good. My boy Bronson hooked me up. I made like $500 based off of the information that he had that other people didn't have. And I had that and no other people didn't. And then those other people are going to be pissed at me. And they're going to be like, oh, okay, who's your source? Who's the leak? Who told you? Why did you act on that? You just made money off of insider information, and that would be illegal in the stock market realm and all this bullshit. You know, you have different areas like that. So as a creator, right, there's really no fucking point to me telling you if I had, hypothetically, insider information. Be that good or bad, wrong or right. It's just, there's no sense of me giving that to you because regardless of the outcome, there's going to be people who are pissed that I acted in the secondary market with a competitive advantage that was unfair to the others. And even though this isn't stock market type thing and you know, real like big boy world, it's still a world where people could get their, you know, panties in a wad. And then also if you lose money based on what I told you, right? You're also going to be pissed because you're like, oh, well, you told me this information. You said it was true, so you know why isn't it true? You know, you have those two types of sides of the coin where both sides are tails. You know, you don't have sides of heads. The only side of the head is like the circumference of it, where if it like lands, you know, perfectly straight, where literally you just don't tell anyone, hypothetically, of course. Now, what makes this dilemma a little crazier is like hypothetically, let's say my Patreon, right? I had a different membership on it, and a lot of Magic the Gathering channels and a lot of other random TCG channels have this type of thing that talk about the secondary market. They say, hey, this group of patrons, I'm going to give you the insider scoop. I'm going to tell you, you know, things that I'm investing in or different investment strategies. You're essentially saying that you're signing a patron up for an investment type thing where you get, you know, information behind closed doors. Now, hypothetically, what if I had insider information and you were signed up to my Patreon for that membership and I didn't tell you what I knew? I didn't tell you I had insider information. I acted on it And then 6 months down the line, you find out that I had information that you didn't have, but you were paying my ass $15 a month to understand all the investment decisions that I was making. And, this dawned on me when I was watching, there's a couple channels, and they weren't channels back in the day, but now there's I believe, these investment guys from Magic the Gathering, where they valued cards and they told you all these things every week. They had a weekly podcast. I forgot what their names are, and I honestly don't want to put anyone on the bus, but that always dawned on me. It's like, hey, like, if you have a type of investment type of group, and I believe the group for Magic the Gathering is called Silent Speculation, right? And if you have a group like that where you have individuals behind closed doors and there's a paywall, then you are having a wall where you could have like information in the background that a customer is paying a monthly subscription fee for information, but if I am holding out on information that I know to share with that group that people are paying me, is that kind of weird? Is there like a moral and ethical dilemma that goes into being a type of content creator on the secondary market of TCGs, that you have to disclose it to your patrons, that you have to say, hey, look, I heard these rumors, these 8 rumors I heard this month. And do you have to, you can even say like, oh, I don't know if they're true or not, but this is what I've heard. I can't say anything to them. Or, I think they could be true, but I'm not 100%. I'm like 90% sure. Like, do you do that approach? But then when you do that, your patrons, they could screenshot that shit and send it all across all these different Discord groups, and then other people find out that you as a content creator had insider information, and then they try to disseminate and figure out how you got that information in the first place. There's a lot of fucking shit that goes into this, man. There's a lot of different viewpoints, and I'd love to hear them in the comment section. What do you think? What do you think content creators, and specifically content creators, what do you think we should do if we have insider information, hypothetically? And then what do you think a general person in the public should do? Like I don't really have an answer for this. I don't think that there's a super correct answer, but I think that what I do know is that I'm happy that I just have a Patreon account that is just like, this is just if you enjoy listening to my ass. Just a normal guy in a normal room. I like having it to that effect because I'm not really beholden to anyone. I think there's something to be beholden to if you have, certain types of groups that you're giving such information to. And, it's a shame because there's a lot of times where I think that investment and collecting information can be shared with others. And there's a lot of things that I had to learn over the years that I could have learned a lot easier if someone was like teaching me actively. But I think that teaching type of thing is kind of weird because a lot of times it's just like you run into that weird thing with investments is if you teach people and say, hey, this is a good thing to park your money in, and it goes tits up, then they're going to be pissed at you. So I feel like a lot of times people don't really, give that stuff, especially, financial advisors are the same thing. You talk to a licensed financial advisor, and I'm not one, I'm just a normal guy, and this is not financial advice, but if you talk to them, they're usually not going to tell you specific stocks. They're going to say, oh, put your stuff in like this, aggregated like mutual fund, right? And then you find out the back end that they're making like money off of you twice because they get commission based off of, their approved mutual fund, and there's a mutual fund manager who just takes money out. So, you have all these double dipping type of things in the honey jar. And, but the point of me just saying all this is they're not even going to tell you specific stocks. They're not. I've tried. And especially they're going to dissuade you from single bonds, let me tell you. They're like, oh, you're not old. You're a young person. You shouldn't be investing in bonds. Anyway, that's just my experience. I could be wrong. But that's just my experience with talking with people over the phone in financial institutions. But they probably don't want to give me information over the phone. But essentially, man, the whole point I digress from that. Is what do content creators do if we have insider information? I mean, another scenario is, do I go to the source? Do I figure out if there's a source person who could be impacted and say, hey, I heard this about your game, or I heard this about, this is going to happen. Do you have anything to say about this? Do you think you should let the public know? People are finding out now, so you might want to release this information. Do I go to the TCG itself? It's a mind fuck. And the whole thing at the end of this is insider information in the TCG space, from the best of my knowledge. I'm just a normal guy, like I said earlier. I'm not a legal person. I don't think there's anything legally wrong with having information. And like, to give you a specific example of this is, like, let's say I know a guy, my friend Fred, over at the Card of Monday shop. Shout out to you, Fred. And he works there day and night, and he's on the line, and he sees, like, oh, look, no one's around here. I can take a picture of this new set, Dynasty, and send it to my boy Bronson so he can pick up some cards. And like, oh wow, look, they're gonna reprint Command and Conquer. Well, since they're reprinting Command and Conquer, I better dump my Command and Conquers now and tell a couple of my friends to dump them now, because they're gonna reprint it and the price is gonna go down from there. That was insider information. That was me just acting on my boy Fred's information. Now, did I do anything legal here? Not really. I mean, especially if Fred didn't send me a picture, just sent me a little text or a little email from like some other email address. It's not technically illegal. It's just trading cards. And I feel like the whole thing with trading cards is they don't really have like a commercial value. With like, you have all these different, like, I don't know, like other companies that produce products or commodities, but trading cards, I feel, from a type of legality standpoint, is seen more as an expense. T&E, as what they call it, the accountant realm, is travel and entertainment expense, right? That's the line item on the income statement in which these things will show up, which is not type of really true. I feel like there's this kind of like gray area with it, especially in the accounting realm, because this, instead of T&E for like a new Dynasty booster box, right, is really kind of more balance sheet focused in my mind. I mean, collectibles have monetary value. They can be traded on a secondary market. And when they do have value, right, assigned to them, I think you can have certain situations where the insider information could be seen as just a thing that is illegal activity. But again, I'm not a lawyer, but from what I know, from what I've seen in the industry, is people have gotten away with it. And a lot of times it's really hard to prove that people have insider information, unless they're like blabbing about it on a YouTube video and say, ha ha, I made $5,000 off you idiots. I sold all my Command and Conquers. My boy Fred hooked me up from Card of Monday. Shout out to you, Fred. I'm rich, man. And like, no one's doing that actively. So it's not like you can even like figure that out, And essentially, I feel like the trading card game industry as a whole is just very, not looked at overall. It's not like monitored. There's not as much regulation. The regulation is very small compared to like the stock market or what have you, where if you had insider information on a stock, if Fred was my boy in Card of Monday, he's like, yo dude, like, Bronson, sell out of all of your Hasbro shares, like things are gonna go, a wreck, like, the company's what is it, like, there's this big fire in the Card of Monday warehouse, and the new set out there is not gonna get put out there in Q4 2022, so the earnings are gonna go way down in Hasbro. Sell your stock now. That is illegal. That is insider information, especially if Fred worked for Hasbro and was like, yo, Bronson, I'm going over the income statement here. We're not making any revenue this quarter. You better sell out fast. We're not going to have any dividends. That's insider information, and that could land you in big boy jail. Big boy jail, giving you a good amount of years on your sentence, which is very bad. But when that same situation happens in Cardboard land, it doesn't have any penalties. It doesn't have certain situations where people could go to jail or get any fine in any way, from what I know. I mean, I haven't seen any articles out there of like, man man accused of learning about new set release for Pokemon and makes millions off of buying singles that were previously like $5 and selling them for $300 because they changed the meta. You don't see that shit because it's not regulated, and it happens all the time, especially in Magic the Gathering. And it might have happened in Flesh and Blood. I don't know. I haven't heard stories yet, but I've heard specific stories from Magic where literally like some random fucking card gets completely bought up out of the blue, and then a month later they find out, oh yeah, that card now is amazing in Standard, right? And they go back to the people, like look at the transaction history, and they see like the different individuals who knew ahead of time, and it just blows me away. Like, that stuff happens all the time, and like people are actively making a good amount of money in the secondary market with information that the public isn't aware of. And one thing I want to do, as well as leave this off with, is tell you, if you ever see certain things happening in the secondary market for any TCG, the price increase, decrease, the thing I always think about is, am I really one of the few first people who is acting on this information? Because a lot of times you think that you are just instantly reacting to the market with everyone else, and you're like, oh, okay, I know this information before other people, right? So I have an edge against other people who haven't read this information yet. But maybe that's not the case. Maybe people have already made their plays already, way ahead of your ass. And you could be making a decision off the backs of other people knowing ahead of time. So it's just something always to keep in your mind as a consumer as well, a collector, investor, or whatever. Not advice, of course. Just from my personal experience, I always think about that. But let me know what you think, because I'd hate to say that I understand what the promptu thing to do is with this type of information, because I fucking don't, And it is a mind fuck when you go down those different tunnels of what you should do as a creator, especially if you hear insider information. Because the inherent thing about it is, even if it comes from a legitimate source, you don't know if it's true 100% of the time. So if I release a video and tell you about it and I'm wrong, I could have fucked a bunch of people over, and I didn't mean to. I was just trying to help out. But then if I'm right, then it's kind of the same like boomerang that hits my ass in the back and saying like, oh, like, how'd you get this? Like, why did you get this information ahead of other people? And it's just a really fucking interesting topic, because it's one of those things that happens outside of the scope of the normal YouTube content creator type of conversation bubble. It's there. It's like, it's in the background. We all know it exists, but a lot of people just don't touch it. A lot of people just, let it be in the background. But I think that there's a lot of money at stake. There's a lot of people making a metric F ton of money with having it, by learning information ahead of other people. And since it's revolving around collectible trading cards instead of stock market, it's a real easy place for people to get lost in, and especially with the not as much regulation, to where they can just get away with things. So let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear them. Let me know what you think I should do as a content creator if I hear about different information in the future. But probably, hypothetically speaking, I wouldn't see why someone would want to get into that if they did. So, cheers, man. Have a good one.